The distress beacon cut through empty space like a scream in the dark. Every ship within 3 star systems heard it and most ignored it. Distress calls were common in the border zones where 2 massive empires had been tearing each other apart for 5 years. The Halrathi Dominion and the Kryn Collective didn't care much about civilian casualties. They cared about winning. Commander Voss sat in his command chamber aboard the Halrathi warship Crimson Talon when the signal reached his sensors. His scales shifted from dark green to an interested amber color. A civilian freighter broadcasting emergency codes, damaged hull, life support failing, crew of 12 humans requesting immediate assistance. Humans, the newest species to join the galactic community. Weak, soft, easily fooled. Voss clicked his claws together in anticipation. The freighter claimed to be carrying medical supplies and food rations, valuable cargo that his fleet desperately needed. The war had stretched supply lines thin. Finding easy prey like this felt like a gift from the universe. Across the contested zone, Admiral Fenn of the Kryn Collective received the same signal. Her 4 eyes narrowed as she studied the data. A human vessel, perfect. The Kryn had been looking for leverage against the Halrathi. A few human hostages might convince Earth to pressure the Dominion into negotiations. The humans were too emotional, too attached to individual lives. They would do anything to save their people. Both military fleets changed course. Both commanders smiled in their own ways. Neither bothered to respond to the distress call. They would answer in person. The freighter drifted in space looking pathetic. Its hull showed scorch marks from what appeared to be pirate weapons. Small fires flickered behind cracked viewports. Atmosphere vented from 3 different breaches. The name Wandering Star was barely visible on the damaged hull plating. Everything about it screamed vulnerability. Inside that battered hull, Captain Reed watched the approaching fleets on his tactical display. His face showed no emotion. Around him, his crew worked at their stations with quiet efficiency. Every person wore the informal clothes of civilian merchant spacers, worn jackets, comfortable boots, nothing military about any of it. First Officer Daniels leaned close to Reed's chair. She kept her voice low even though they were alone. Old habits from years of pretending. Both fleets are moving into position. The Halrathi will arrive in 20 minutes. The Kryn are 30 minutes out. Reed nodded slowly. He had expected this. The border zones attracted predators, species that saw opportunity in chaos, species that had forgotten what it meant to respect other life. Maintain the distress signal, keep the damage reports cycling. I want them confident. Daniels returned to her station. Around the bridge, other crew members continued their performance. One engineer reported failing power systems over internal communications. A medical officer transmitted casualty updates. A navigator pleaded for safe passage coordinates. Every word was recorded. Every transmission was deliberately sent in the clear so both approaching fleets could hear everything. The Halrathi arrived first. 6 warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel in a perfect attack formation. Their weapons were already hot. Their shields were already up. They surrounded the Wandering Star like predators circling wounded prey. Voss opened a communication channel. His translator converted his language into human standard speech. The tone was mocking, dismissive. Human vessel, this is Commander Voss of the Halrathi Dominion. You are in restricted military space. Surrender your cargo and prepare to be boarded. Comply immediately or be destroyed. Reed touched the control that activated his own transmitter. When he spoke, his voice was tired, desperate, exactly what Voss expected to hear. Commander Voss, this is Captain Reed of the merchant ship Wandering Star. We're civilians. We have wounded aboard. Our engines are failing. Please, we just need safe passage to the nearest port. We'll share our supplies with you. Just let us go. Voss laughed. The sound came through the speakers like grinding metal. You have nothing to bargain with, human. Your species is weak. Your ship is dying. Surrender now. The Kryn fleet arrived moments later. 5 heavy cruisers took position opposite the Halrathi formation. The freighter was now trapped between 2 enemy forces. Admiral Fenn broadcast on the same frequency. Commander Voss, these humans are now prisoners of the Kryn Collective. Withdraw your vessels or face the consequences. The humans were mine first, Admiral. Take your failing fleet and leave before I add more Kryn wrecks to this sector. Reed listened to them argue over who got to claim his ship. He checked his chronometer. 30 seconds. His crew knew the timing without being told. They had practiced this reveal 100 times. Both of you need to leave. Reed's voice had changed. No more desperation, no more fear. Pure military authority filled every word. This is your only warning. Withdraw now or accept the consequences. Voss stopped arguing with Fenn. both commanders focused on the human who dared to threaten them. "You dare speak to us like that?" Voss raised one clawed hand. "Destroy that ship." The moment his weapons officer touched the firing controls, everything changed. The Wandering Star's damaged hull began to move. Armor plating that had appeared broken and burned slid away in perfectly engineered sections. Beneath the disguise, military-grade composite armor gleamed in the starlight. Weapon ports opened along the entire length of the ship. Missile tubes extended from hidden bays. Point defense turrets rotated into active positions. The distress beacon cut off. In its place, a powerful military transponder broadcast a new identity: UHSN Phantom Blade, Black Operations Division, United Human Space Navy. On both alien command bridges, sensors registered the transformation. Computers recalculated the threat assessment. What had been a helpless civilian vessel was now reading as a warship that outclassed anything in either fleet. Reed spoke again. His image appeared on every screen in both fleets. He wore a crisp military uniform now. The casual merchant clothing was gone. Behind him, his bridge crew moved with practiced precision. "I am Captain Reed of the United Human Space Navy. You were warned. Humanity does not bluff. Power down your weapons and withdraw immediately. This is not a negotiation." Voss stared at the transformed ship. His scales shifted to a pale color that indicated shock among his species. Fenn's 4 eyes widened. Her tactical officer was shouting reports about the human ship's capabilities. Both commanders realized the same thing at the same moment. They had been hunting what they thought was prey. Instead, they had triggered a trap, and now they were the ones in danger. Pride made Voss do something stupid. His entire career had been built on crushing weaker opponents. The idea that a human vessel could threaten him felt impossible. The idea that he had been deceived felt even worse. His crew watched him. His superiors would hear about this. Backing down from a single ship would destroy his reputation. His clawed hand slammed down on the firing control. Plasma bolts erupted from the Crimson Talon's main batteries. Bright blue energy crossed the space between predator and prey in seconds, except the prey wasn't prey anymore. The Phantom Blade's shields caught every shot. The energy dissipated across defensive fields that glowed briefly, then returned to invisible strength. Not a single bolt touched the hull. The human ship didn't even move. It absorbed the attack like someone brushing away dust. Reed's voice came through every speaker in the Halrathi fleet. "That was your mistake, Commander, not mine." The Phantom Blade rotated on its axis with impossible grace for something that size. Point defense systems tracked every Halrathi vessel simultaneously. Targeting computers that had been designed by human engineers locked onto weapons, engines, and shield generators with surgical precision. Then the human ship returned fire. Railgun rounds accelerated to a fraction of light speed. Kinetic weapons that didn't care about energy shields. The physics were simple. Mass times velocity equals force. The Halrathi shields were designed to stop plasma and lasers. They did nothing against solid projectiles moving that fast. The first round punched through the Crimson Talon's forward weapons array. Metal vaporized. The plasma cannons that Voss had just fired exploded from the impact. Secondary explosions rippled through 3 decks. The commander's chair shook violently. 5 more rounds followed in less than 2 seconds. Each one found a different Halrathi ship. Each one destroyed specific targets without hitting life support or crew quarters. Weapon systems shattered. Engine nacelles crumpled. Shield generators sparked and died. Admiral Fenn watched from her command bridge. She had been about to order her own attack. The display of human precision changed her mind instantly. Her tactical officer provided running analysis that made her blood run cold. "Admiral, the human vessel is using predictive combat algorithms. It fired those rounds before our fleet even moved into aggressive posture. It calculated our response patterns and targeted our most likely attack vectors." Fenn had fought in 17 major battles. She had commanded fleets against impossible odds. She knew when she was outmatched. The humans had been running simulations. They had studied Kryn combat doctrine. They knew exactly how her ships would move before she gave the orders. "All vessels hold position. Do not engage the human ship." Voss had no such wisdom. His damaged ship limped to the side as he screamed orders at his remaining vessels. "All ships concentrate fire, overwhelm their shields. They cannot stop all of us." He was wrong. The Phantom Blade could absolutely stop all of them. Launch bays opened along the human ship's flanks. Sleek fighters dropped into space like deadly insects leaving a nest. 12 craft that moved faster than anything the aliens had ever tracked. They didn't use conventional thrusters. Something about human engineering allowed for vector changes that violated what the aliens thought were physical limits. The fighters spread out in a pattern that looked random but was actually mathematically perfect. Each one took a position that provided overlapping fields of fire while maintaining maximum defensive coverage. They moved like a school of fish, like a flock of birds, perfect coordination without apparent communication. The first fighter reached a Halrathi cruiser in seconds. It didn't fire weapons. Instead, it deployed something the aliens had never seen before, a small device that attached to the cruiser's hull with magnetic clamps. Then the fighter was gone, already moving to the next target. Voss's engineer shouted a warning. "Commander, unknown device attached to our hull, it's interfacing with our systems." The Halrathi tried to override their computers. They tried to shut down the foreign access. Nothing worked. The human device was already deep in their code. It did something that terrified Voss more than weapons fire. It locked him out of his own ship. Every Halrathi vessel received the same treatment. 12 fighters, 12 ships, 12 devices that took control in less than 3 minutes. The alien crews could see everything. They could monitor their systems. They just couldn't do anything about what was happening. The human fighters returned to the Phantom Blade without firing a single shot. Reed's voice came through the communication systems that the Halrathi could no longer control. "Your vessels are now operating under human override protocols. Your weapons are disabled. Your engines are limited to 1/4 power. Your life support is functioning normally. Your crews are not in danger. You are, however, no longer in command of your own ships." Voss felt something he had not experienced in his entire military career. He felt helpless. Every screen showed human code running through his systems. Every control responded to commands he didn't give. His ship was a puppet and Earth held the strings. Fenn watched this display with growing respect and terror. The humans had just captured 6 warships without killing anyone. They had used precision over power, technology over brute force. It was a lesson in military superiority that she would never forget. Reed opened a direct channel to both commanders. "I want both of you to understand something. The United Human Space Navy has been operating in this galaxy for 20 years. You never saw us because we didn't want to be seen. Every civilian ship you ignored, every freighter you passed by, every merchant vessel you dismissed as beneath your notice, some of them were us." Daniels brought up a display that showed on every screen in both fleets, a map of the border zones, hundreds of markers indicating human-civilian ships over the past 5 years, trade vessels, colony transports, medical ships, mining platforms. Then the markers changed color. 40% of them shifted from civilian designation to military classification. The aliens were looking at a ghost fleet, an armada that had been hiding in plain sight for half a decade. "We've been watching you fight this pointless war. We've recorded every battle. We've analyzed every tactic. We know your supply lines, your command structure, your strategic weaknesses. We know everything about both of your empires, and you know nothing about us." Voss tried to speak, but his voice came out as a weak rasp. Why hide, why deceive us?" Reed's expression showed something that might have been sadness. "Because the galaxy taught us to. When Earth first made contact, 3 different species tried to exploit us. You all thought humans were weak, easy to control, simple to manipulate, so we decided to change the game. We built a fleet you couldn't see. We learned your secrets while keeping ours, and now you know the truth. Humanity doesn't start fights, but we end them." New signatures appeared on sensors, 3 more ships dropping out of FTL, a medical vessel, a colony transport, a mining platform, all broadcasting civilian identities, all beginning the same transformation that the Phantom Blade had demonstrated. The message was clear: the human you see is never the only human present, and underestimating them would be the last mistake anyone made. 300 light-years away, Ambassador Trelvos received the emergency transmission in the middle of a routine council session. The Galactic Council chamber fell silent as the footage played across the central display. Every species representative watched the human ship transform from helpless freighter into military predator. They watched the precision strikes. They watched the fighter deployment. They watched 2 of the galaxy's most powerful military fleets become prisoners without a single death. Trelvos felt his respiratory sacs constrict with something close to panic. His species had been part of the Council for 3,000 years. They prided themselves on understanding newcomers, on predicting how young species would behave. They had been completely wrong about humanity. The human ambassador sat calmly in her designated section. Ambassador Lewis wore a simple suit, no military decorations, no aggressive posturing. She looked exactly like what everyone expected from Earth's diplomatic corps: professional, polite, harmless. Trelvos realized that appearance was another deception. Ambassador Lewis, his voice translator, carried the stress he felt. The Council demands an immediate explanation. Your species disclosed a defensive fleet of 50 vessels. This footage shows military capabilities far beyond what Earth reported. You have violated the transparency agreements that all Council members must honor. Lewis stood slowly. She walked to the speaker's platform with measured steps. When she spoke, her voice was calm, almost conversational. It was the tone of someone who had been waiting for this moment for a very long time. Councillor Trelvos, I would like to correct several errors in your statement. Earth disclosed our defensive fleet accurately, 50 vessels dedicated to protecting our home system. We never claimed those were our only ships. A council member from the Vren Collective rose from their seat. Their species communicated through color changes in their skin. The angry red pattern was visible across the entire chamber. Deception, you hid military assets, you broke our trust. Lewis tilted her head slightly. It was a very human gesture that somehow made her look more dangerous. Did we break trust, or did the Council never ask the right questions? When Earth requested membership, we were asked about defensive capabilities. We answered honestly. We were asked about weapons of mass destruction. We had none. We were asked about aggressive expansion plans. We had none. Nobody asked if we maintained intelligence-gathering operations. Nobody asked if our civilian fleet had military applications. You assumed we were simple. That assumption was your mistake, not our deception. Trelvos pulled up the original membership documents. He read through them with growing discomfort. Lewis was technically correct. Earth had answered every question asked. They had never volunteered information about capabilities beyond what was specifically requested. The Council had assumed they knew everything because the humans seemed so forthcoming. Another representative spoke up, this one from a species that valued direct confrontation. Why maintain this secret fleet? What purpose does it serve except preparation for war? Lewis activated her personal display. Images filled the chamber. Recordings from Earth's first contact with galactic civilization. Diplomatic meetings where older species discussed humanity with casual contempt. Strategic assessments that rated Earth as a resource opportunity. Private communications between Council members about establishing protectorate status over the Sol system. The chamber went very quiet. We maintained the Black Operations Fleet because we learned a valuable lesson. The galaxy does not respect weakness. Earth was assessed as primitive, our culture was considered chaotic, our military was labeled inadequate. 3 separate species filed formal requests to establish supervision over human space. We were expected to accept subordinate membership, to become clients of more advanced civilizations. Lewis let the words hang in the air. Several council members shifted uncomfortably. The recordings she had shown were never meant to be public. Humanity decided that we would not be anyone's subordinate, but we also understood that we couldn't challenge the entire galaxy with direct force. So we did what humans do best. We adapted, we observed, we learned, and we built something none of you expected. She brought up new data, analysis of every major conflict in the galaxy over the past 20 years, detailed intelligence reports on military capabilities, trade routes, diplomatic relationships, information that should have been classified across dozens of different civilizations. The Black Operations Fleet has been gathering information since Earth joined the Council. We have ships in every major sector. We've witnessed battles, negotiations, and secret agreements. We know more about galactic politics than most of you know about your own allies. This knowledge is our real weapon. The military capabilities you saw today are just the visible part of what Earth has built. Trelvos felt a creeping sense of vulnerability. How many times had Halrathi diplomatic meetings been observed by human ships pretending to be merchants? How many classified Kryn military operations had been recorded by human freighters? What do you intend to do with this information? His question came out quieter than he intended. Lewis smiled. It was not a threatening expression, but it was not entirely friendly either. We intend to use it exactly as we demonstrated today, to prevent conflicts, to protect the innocent, to ensure that Earth and humanity are treated as equals rather than resources to be exploited. The Halrathi and Kryn have been fighting for 5 years, thousands dead, billions spent on weapons, entire colonies destroyed, and for what? A border dispute that both sides have forgotten the origin of. She pulled up tactical data from the engagement. Captain Reed disabled those fleets without killing anyone. He could have destroyed every ship in that sector. Instead, he demonstrated restraint combined with overwhelming capability. That is Earth's approach to galactic politics. We would rather be respected than feared, but we will accept fear if respect is not offered. A new transmission arrived from the border zones. This one showed the 3 additional human ships completing their transformations. The medical ship became a carrier loaded with advanced fighters. The colony transport revealed heavy weapons platforms. The mining vessel deployed siege cannons that made several council members gasp. How many? Trelvos asked the question everyone wanted answered. How many ships does Earth really have? Lewis consulted her notes as if checking a simple fact. The Black Operations Division maintains 200 vessels. Each one is capable of operating as civilian craft or military asset. They range from light scouts to heavy battleships. All of them have been active in galactic space for between 5 and 20 years. Some of you have probably had human crews working on your stations, living in your colonies, doing business in your markets. You never noticed because we made sure you wouldn't. The implications crashed through the council like a wave. 200 ships, 20 years of intelligence gathering, humans embedded throughout galactic civilization. Everything the council thought they knew about Earth was built on incomplete information. Lewis continued speaking into the shocked silence. Earth is not asking for forgiveness. We are not apologizing for protecting ourselves. We are simply informing the council that the old assessments of humanity are outdated. We are a pure power now. We expect to be treated as such. The alternative is that we continue to operate in the shadows, and I think today has demonstrated that you would prefer us to work in the light. She returned to her seat. The message was delivered. The revelation was complete. Trelvos looked around the chamber at representatives from species that had existed for millennia, advanced civilizations that had mastered technology and warfare. All of them had been outsmarted by the newest members of the galactic community. He made a decision that he hoped was wise. The council will take a recess. We need time to process this information. Ambassador Lewis, you will remain available for further questions. Lewis nodded politely. She sat in her chair looking perfectly comfortable while the rest of the council scrambled to reassess everything they thought they knew about humanity. Back in the border zones, Commander Voss sat in his command chair and tried to accept his new reality. His ship responded to every control input but only within parameters that the humans allowed. His weapons officer had tried 14 different override codes. None of them worked. The human software was too sophisticated, or perhaps Halrathi security had always been too simple. A communication request came through channels that Voss hadn't even known existed on his own ship. The humans had accessed systems that military intelligence claimed were impossible to breach. He accepted the call because refusing seemed pointless. Captain Reed appeared on the main screen. The human officer looked tired, not physically exhausted but carrying a weight that Voss recognized. It was the expression of someone who had done necessary things that still bothered their conscience. Commander Voss, I want to make something very clear. Your crew is not in danger. Your ships will be returned to full functionality. But first, we need to have a conversation about what happens next. Voss clicked his claws together in a gesture that meant bitter acceptance among his people. What choice do I have? You control my vessel, you control my fleet. Speak your terms, human. Reed shook his head slowly. These aren't terms, this is an offer, one that benefits you as much as it benefits Earth. He brought up a tactical display that showed the entire border zone conflict, 5 years of battle data, supply lines, strategic positions, casualty reports. The information was more detailed than anything Voss had seen in his own military briefings. Your war with the Kryn is costing both empires everything. You've lost 12% of your military fleet, they've lost 15%. Neither side is winning. Both sides are bleeding resources that could be used for exploration, development, or literally anything more productive than killing each other over a border that shifts every few months. Admiral Fenn's voice joined the conversation. Her image appeared beside Reed's. The human speaks truth, but the Kryn collective cannot accept surrender. Our honor demands victory. Voss felt his scales shift to an aggressive orange color. The Dominion will never bow to Kryn demands. We would rather fight for another 50 years. Reed waited until both commanders finished posturing. His expression didn't change. He had clearly expected exactly these responses. Then fight for another 50 years, continue wasting ships and lives, or consider a third option, one where Earth acts as neutral arbiter. We have intelligence on both of your empires. We know your strategic weaknesses. We also know your strategic goals, and here's what we discovered after analyzing 5 years of conflict. The display changed to show overlapping territorial claims, resources that both sides wanted, trade routes that neither side was willing to concede, political pressures from populations demanding victory. The data painted a picture of two empires locked in a fight neither could win but neither could abandon. You're fighting because stopping would look like weakness. Your populations expect victory. Your political structures require enemies to maintain power. The actual disagreements that started this war have been forgotten. Now you fight because you've been fighting. It's self-sustaining stupidity. Voss wanted to argue, but the human was right. He couldn't even remember what the original border dispute had been about. Something involving mining rights, ancient territorial claims. It didn't matter anymore. The war had become its own justification. Fen's 4 eyes narrowed as she studied the data. What does Earth gain from mediating our conflict? Nothing in the galaxy is offered without price. Reed's expression shifted to something that might have been respect. Smart question, here's the honest answer. Earth gains stability, we gain trading partners instead of war zones, we gain allies who respect our capabilities instead of enemies who resent our interference, and we establish a precedent that humanity can be trusted with power. That last one is important to us. He pulled up another display. This one showed a proposed neutral zone, territory that would be jointly monitored but claimed by neither empire, resources that would be shared under Earth mediation, trade agreements that benefited both sides equally. This is what we're offering, a face-saving solution that lets both of you stop fighting without admitting defeat. You both agree that Earth's intelligence prevented a military disaster, which is true. We did prevent you from being humiliated by each other. You accept human oversight of the disputed zones for 20 years. During that time, we help you rebuild your trade relationships and find common interests beyond warfare. Voss studied the proposal. It was actually fair, more fair than anything the Halrathi High Command would have offered. His people could frame this as a victory. They had been saved from Kryn aggression by powerful human allies. The propaganda practically wrote itself. Fen reached the same conclusion from her perspective. The Kryn could claim they had been protected from Halrathi expansion by Earth's intervention. Both empires could redirect military spending toward infrastructure. Both populations would be satisfied that their honor remained intact. It was a brilliant political solution wrapped in military demonstration. Why the restraint? Voss asked the question that had been bothering him since the Phantom Blade revealed itself. You could have destroyed my fleet. You could have killed us all and taken whatever you wanted. Human capabilities are clearly superior. Why? Offer partnership instead of demanding submission. Reed was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice carried conviction that surprised both alien commanders. Because that's not who we are. Earth has a saying, might makes right is the philosophy of bullies and tyrants. We learned early in our history that the strongest nation isn't always the wisest, that forcing others to submit creates enemies, not allies. We want partners in this galaxy. We want species that choose to work with us because it benefits everyone. Daniels appeared beside Reed on the screen. She added her own perspective. We've been watching galactic politics for 20 years. We've seen empires rise and fall. We've watched countless conflicts burn themselves out. The pattern is always the same. The strong exploit the weak until the weak become strong enough to fight back. Then everyone loses. Earth decided we didn't want to be part of that cycle. Reed nodded agreement with his first officer. We hid our capabilities because revealing them too early would have made us targets. But now that you know what we can do, we're offering a different path. One where strength is used to prevent conflict rather than cause it. Where intelligence is shared to benefit everyone. Where humanity stands as guardian rather than conqueror. Voss felt something shift in his understanding of humans. They had the power to dominate. They chose partnership instead. It was either brilliant long-term strategy or genuine idealism, possibly both. And if we refuse this offer, Fen asked, if we choose to continue our war? Reed's expression hardened slightly. Then we release your ships and withdraw, but we'll remember that you chose violence over cooperation. Earth will maintain our observation network. We'll continue gathering intelligence. And when your war finally ends through mutual exhaustion, we won't offer this deal again. You'll have missed your chance to shape the outcome. The message was clear. This was a limited-time opportunity. Accept human mediation now with favorable terms, or fight until both empires collapsed and accept whatever terms they could get later. Both commanders looked at the proposal again. Both ran calculations about political survival and military necessity. Both reached the same conclusion at roughly the same time. Voss spoke first. The Halrathi Dominion will accept Earth mediation, pending approval from High Command. Fen followed seconds later. The Kryn Collective agrees to preliminary negotiations. Our council must review the terms. Reed allowed himself a small smile. Good, we'll begin the formal process within 48 hours. In the meantime, human engineering teams will assist with repairs to your vessels. Consider it a gesture of good faith. The screen went dark. Both alien commanders sat in their captured ships and contemplated how much the galaxy had just changed. Humanity had announced itself not with conquest but with capability, not with threats but with solutions. It was a different kind of power, one that neither of them had been prepared to face. News traveled fast across the galaxy when it involved military surprises and political upheaval. Within 3 days, every major civilization had received reports about the human reveal in the border zones. Within a week, the footage had been analyzed by hundreds of military intelligence agencies. Within 2 weeks, the Galactic Council reconvened to address what everyone was calling the human question. The chamber looked different this time. Ambassador Lewis noticed the subtle changes immediately. Species that had previously ignored Earth's delegation now watched her closely. The seating arrangement had shifted. Humanity had been moved from the outer ring where junior members sat to an inner position closer to the established powers. Nobody had announced the change. It simply happened overnight. Trelvos called the session to order with visible reluctance. The past 2 weeks had not been kind to his diplomatic career. His species had been among those who initially assessed humanity as manageable. His reports had described Earth as technologically inferior and politically naive. Those reports now looked embarrassingly wrong. Ambassador Lewis, the Council has reviewed Earth's disclosure of military capabilities. We have questions. Lewis stood and walked to the speaker platform. She carried a data tablet but didn't reference it. Everything she needed to say had been prepared long before this moment. I welcome all questions, Counselor. Earth has nothing to hide now that our capabilities are known. A representative from the Torgath Unity spoke first. Their species was known for blunt communication and aggressive trade practices. How long have your spy ships been operating in our territory? What intelligence have you gathered about Torgath military assets? Lewis smiled politely. Human observation vessels have been present in Torgath space for approximately 16 years. We have detailed information about your fleet composition, manufacturing capabilities, and strategic planning. We also have comprehensive data on your trade networks, resource distribution, and political structure. The Torgath representative's expression went through several unpleasant colors. That is an act of war, espionage against a council member. Lewis tilted her head slightly. Is it? The Torgath Unity maintains intelligence gathering operations in 47 different systems, including Earth's home sector. Your spy network is actually quite sophisticated. We detected it within 6 months of joining the Council. We chose not to make an issue of it because espionage is standard practice for every spacefaring civilization. The difference is that our network is better than yours. She pulled up a comparative analysis that made several Council members shift uncomfortably. It showed the intelligence operations of every major power: the Torgath network, the Vren operations, the Halrathi Shadow Fleet, the Kryn listening posts. Every species engaged in the same behavior they were condemning humanity for. Earth is simply more honest about it now. We gathered intelligence because that's what survival requires. We hid our capabilities because revealing them prematurely would have made us vulnerable. Now that we've demonstrated our strength, we're offering something that none of you have offered each other. What are you offering? Another representative asked, this one from a species that valued information exchange. Transparency. Earth will share intelligence with the Council, selected information that benefits galactic stability without compromising our sources. We'll provide early warning about conflicts, resource disputes, and potential threats. In exchange, we ask to be treated as peer members rather than junior associates. Trelvos felt obligated to address the obvious concern. If humanity shares intelligence, what prevents you from manipulating Council decisions? You could provide false information to guide policy in directions that benefit Earth. Lewis had expected this question. It was the logical concern. Verification. Everything we share can be confirmed through your own sources. We're not asking you to trust us blindly. Offering to do the research and analysis that most of you don't have resources to complete. You verify our findings through your networks. If we provide false intelligence even once, you stop trusting our information. It's against our interests to lie because credibility is more valuable than temporary advantage. She pulled up another display. This one showed the proposed peace agreement between the Halrathi and Kryn. The document had been drafted with input from both empires. It addressed territorial claims, resource sharing, and demilitarized zones. Most importantly, it provided face-saving language that let both sides stop fighting without admitting defeat. This agreement was built using human intelligence and human mediation. Both empires have preliminary approval from their governments. If this succeeds, it will end a 5-year conflict that has cost thousands of lives and destabilized an entire sector. That is the kind of outcome Earth can provide, not through force but through information and honest negotiation. A smaller species representative spoke up. Their civilization was often caught between larger powers. What about species that cannot provide equal value in return? Not all of us have intelligence networks or military strength to trade. How do we fit into this new arrangement? Lewis's expression softened. This was the question she had hoped someone would ask. Earth doesn't expect equal capability, we expect equal respect. Smaller civilizations have different strengths, scientific research, cultural knowledge, unique perspectives. The Rilan Collective has the most advanced medical research in the galaxy despite having only 12 inhabited worlds. The Porth Federation produces art that has influenced dozens of other cultures. Value isn't measured only in warships and spy networks. She brought up economic data showing trade relationships across the Council. Humanity has been studying galactic culture for 20 years. We've learned that the current power structure benefits a few large empires while smaller species struggle for recognition. Earth's proposal includes reform that gives all members genuine voice in Council decisions, not because we're generous but because diverse perspectives make better policy. The chamber erupted in multiple simultaneous conversations. Some species saw opportunity in Earth's proposal, others saw threat to their established positions. The debate continued for hours. During a recess, Trelvos approached Lewis privately. His body language showed submission that would have shocked other council members. You've changed everything, the balance of power, the way we conduct diplomacy. 20 years of observation gave you advantages that we cannot match. Lewis considered her response carefully. We learned from watching you, all of you. The Halrathi taught us the value of military strength. The Kryn showed us the importance of strategic positioning. Your species demonstrated the power of patient diplomacy. We took the best practices from every civilization and combined them into something new. Trelvos made a gesture that indicated respect among his people. You weaponized our own strengths against us. No, we learned from your strengths and avoided your weaknesses. The Halrathi are strong but inflexible. The Kryn are strategic but isolated. Your people are patient but risk-averse. Earth combines strength with flexibility, strategy with cooperation, patience with decisive action. We're not trying to defeat anyone, we're trying to improve the entire system. The counselor studied the human ambassador with new appreciation. Do you truly believe that, or is this sophisticated manipulation? Lewis smiled. Why can't it be both? Earth benefits from a stable galaxy, so does everyone else. Our interests align with galactic prosperity. If that makes us manipulative, then yes, we're manipulating you into peace and cooperation. The horror. Trelvos made a sound that his species used for laughter. I think I am beginning to understand humans. You are simultaneously more dangerous and more trustworthy than we initially assessed. That's probably the most accurate evaluation anyone has made about Earth. We're complicated, but we're consistent. Remember that and we'll get along fine. The session reconvened. The voting began. Earth's proposal for intelligence sharing and council reform passed with 70% approval. Humanity officially became a peer power in galactic politics. Lewis returned to her seat knowing that the hard work was just beginning. Revealing the secret fleet was the easy part. Building trust would take years. But for the first time since Earth joined the galactic community, they would do it as equals rather than subordinates. That alone made 20 years of deception worthwhile. 8 months after the revelation, Captain Reed walked through the corridors of what used to be a secret. The Phantom Blade had been completely refitted. The disguise mechanisms were still present, but now everyone knew about them. The ship had been reclassified as an official council observer vessel. Its mission had changed from covert intelligence to open peacekeeping. Reed still wasn't sure how he felt about the transition. Daniels found him in the observation deck staring at the stars. She carried 2 cups of coffee and offered one without speaking. They stood together in comfortable silence for several minutes. You miss it, she finally said what they were both thinking. Miss what exactly? The secrecy, the mission, operating in shadows where nobody questioned us. Reed took a long drink from his cup. The coffee was terrible. Station-synthesized beverages always tasted wrong. but the ritual mattered more than the flavor. Yes and no, I missed the simplicity. We had clear objectives: gather intelligence, maintain cover, avoid detection. Now everything is complicated: politics, diplomacy, transparency. Daniel smiled slightly. You mean now we have to explain our actions instead of just taking them? Exactly. It was easier when we could make decisions based purely on strategic value. Now we have to consider how 16 different species will interpret everything we do. A communication alert interrupted their conversation. The bridge requested Reed's presence. A situation had developed in the outer reach sectors, the kind of situation that the new Phantom Blade was designed to handle. Reed and Daniels reached the bridge in less than 2 minutes. The crew had changed over the past months. Some original members had transferred to other Black operations vessels that were still running covert missions. New officers had joined who were more comfortable with diplomatic operations. The bridge felt different, more open, less like a bunker preparing for discovered secrets. The tactical officer provided a quick briefing. Captain, we're receiving distress calls from a research station in the Quellen system. 3 different pirate groups are converging on their location. The station has minimal defenses. Local security forces are 4 hours away. Reed studied the tactical display. The research station was conducting legitimate scientific work. The pirates were opportunists who had found an easy target. Simple situation with clear moral alignment. Set course for the Quellen system, full speed, broadcast our identity and council authority, let the pirates know that Earth is responding. The Phantom Blade jumped to faster than light travel. They would arrive before the pirates reached the station. The ship's presence alone would probably prevent violence. That was the new mission: prevention through reputation rather than intervention through force. While in transit, Reed received a communication from an unexpected source. Commander Voss appeared on the screen looking substantially different than during their first encounter. The Halrathi officer's scales showed colors that indicated respect among his species. Captain Reed, I heard about the situation in the Quellen system. The Halrathi Third Fleet is in that sector conducting joint exercises with Kryn forces. We can provide support if needed. Reed felt something shift in his understanding of how much things had changed. The 2 empires that had been trying to destroy each other 8 months ago were now running joint military operations. Earth's mediated peace agreement had held, more than held, it had created actual cooperation between former enemies. Commander Voss, your offer is appreciated but hopefully unnecessary. We're hoping our reputation will be sufficient deterrent. However, having your fleet in the area provides excellent backup. Voss made a gesture that meant acknowledgement. The galaxy has learned not to challenge human vessels. Even pirates have heard about the ship that defeated 2 fleets without firing shots. Your reputation is indeed a weapon. The Phantom Blade dropped out of FTL at the edge of the Quellen system. The pirates had already arrived but hadn't engaged the research station. They were holding position as if waiting for something. Reed opened a general broadcast. This is Captain Reed of the United Human Space Navy vessel Phantom Blade operating under Galactic Council authority. The research station you are approaching is under Council protection. Withdraw immediately or face consequences. One of the pirate ships responded. The captain sounded more curious than aggressive. We've heard stories about your ship, about what you can do. Are the stories true? Reed considered his response carefully. Reputation was valuable, but it required maintenance. The stories are probably exaggerated. We're not magical. We're just very good at our jobs, but yes, we can do everything you've heard about. More importantly, we have backup from the Halrathi Third Fleet and Kryn peacekeeping forces. You're outnumbered and outgunned. Make the smart choice. There was a long pause, then all 3 pirate vessels turned away from the research station and jumped to FTL. No shots fired, no damage taken. Conflict prevented through reputation and diplomatic coordination. Daniels leaned close to Reed's chair. That was almost disappointing. I was hoping to use the new weapon systems. Reed laughed quietly. This is better. We accomplished the mission without violence. The pirates live to make better choices. The researchers continue their work. Everyone benefits. A transmission came from the research station. The director thanked them profusely, offered to host Reed and his crew for a celebration. Reed politely declined and suggested they thank the Halrathi and Kryn forces instead. Building relationships between species was more valuable than accepting personal gratitude. As the Phantom Blade resumed patrol, Reed sat in his command chair and reflected on the journey. 20 years of operating in secret, pretending to be something they weren't, watching injustices unfold without intervening because maintaining cover was the priority. All of that had led to this moment, a galaxy that knew Earth's capabilities and chose cooperation over confrontation, species working together instead of exploiting each other, pirates running from reputation instead of forcing military response. Daniels noticed his thoughtful expression. No regrets. Raid considered the questions seriously. Some regrets: we could have prevented suffering if we'd revealed ourselves earlier, but we weren't ready. Earth needed time to understand the galaxy, to build the networks and relationships that make our current position possible. The deception was necessary even if it wasn't pleasant. And now we show the galaxy what humanity can build when we're not hiding. We've proven we can fight. Time to prove we can lead, not through force but through example. That's the harder mission, but it's the one that matters. The ship continued through space carrying a crew that had transitioned from shadows to spotlight, from spies to peacekeepers, from secret weapons to public servants. The Phantom Blade's hull displayed Earth's insignia proudly now. The transformation was complete. Humanity had earned its place through patience and capability. Now they would maintain it through honesty and cooperation. Reed watched the stars and felt something he hadn't experienced during his years in black operations. Hope, not just for Earth but for the entire galactic community. They had started this journey as strangers pretending to be harmless. They had become partners working toward mutual prosperity. The secret human ship had served its purpose. The revelation had changed everything, and the galaxy that had initially regretted discovering Earth's true nature was beginning to appreciate what humanity brought to the community. Not conquest, not domination, but genuine partnership built on respect, earned through capability and maintained through character. That was worth 20 years of deception. That was worth the sacrifice of operating in shadows, because the light they stepped into was brighter than anything they could have achieved alone. The Phantom Blade jumped to its next assignment, no longer hiding, no longer pretending, just serving alongside the species that had learned the hard way never to underestimate humanity again.